Okay, the first book which I read in 2021 was Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. This is the fifth installment in the Harry Potter series and also the longest book in the series. This wasn't particularly my favorite. It is long, but I really like that normally. But in the case of this book, I feel like the consequences, the clues which lead up to the final battle, they were very stretched out and far apart, so you couldn't put them together. Another thing is that the characters in this book felt very aggressive, mainly the character which was introduced in this book, Luna Lovegood, who's my favorite character. But other than that, I feel like this book was a very good book, and I would give this a 4 out of 5. And the second book which I read this year was Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. This is the 6th installment in the series, and it's far thinner than the last book. The mystery aspect in this series, I have to say, it's really well done. And this particular book, I feel like it was so different from the movie, yet I still liked it. The ending wasn't particularly my favorite, but other than that, I also like this book, and I would give this a 4 out of 5. On a side note, I'm not that particular with my rating. I would normally give a book a 4 out of 5 unless I really like it. That's 5 out of 5. And the next book which I read was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. This was the 7th installment in the series, and after reading it, it did make sense why they made 2 movies out of this. Even though this is not the longest book in the series, there is a lot of subplots going on, and it's just a lot to fit in one movie. This is my favorite book. There were a lot of scenes which I enjoyed, and it was also a fresh start not being at Hogwarts for once. Luna, I feel like she came to her best. In this book, there were so many moments. We got to see Ravenclaw's common room. I'm a Ravenclaw, so that makes sense. And I just really like this book. And I would give this a 5 out of 5. This is my favorite book in the series. And then I read Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. Now, I'm not gonna rant on this. A lot of people are not a big fan of this book, let's say. This is the 8th installment. This takes place 19 years later, picks up where the epilogue ended. And straightforward, I'd say I did not like this book. First off, the characters, none of them were really nice, except Scorpius. I feel like that was the only reason I could get through this book. Harry himself, the only thing I can say is show you this line which he says. This is the protagonist we've been reading about for the past 7 books, and this is what we got. And yeah, I just did not like it. Rose, oh my god, I hated her. And I just gave this a 2.5 out of 5, and that's being generous. Also, I didn't get what they were doing with the cover. I mean, it's cool and all. It's realistic at some point, and also it didn't make sense. And then there's the wings. It just didn't make sense. And also, this book isn't actually written by J.K. Rowling. It's an idea developed by J.K. Rowling, and it's written by Jack Thorne. And the next book which I read is Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. I started the Percy Jackson and Olympian series by now, and I think I read this in July. This is by Rick Riordan, and first off, the cover, oh my god. um, the illustrations are just they don't make sense. First off, the illustrations don't really take place, so that's just a warning. This book in particular isn't my favorite. I liked it, but the world building, it's a little longer than I normally like. But I really did like this book. Percy as a character I really enjoyed. And this is very similar to the Harry Potter series, but it's not. It takes place in summer, and I really just enjoy this series very much. Apart from Percy, I also like Annabeth and Grover too, and I gave this book a 4 out of 5. And then I read the sequel of the series, Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. This is a lot of people's least favorite book, but I personally really enjoyed it. The plot is less intricate compared to the other books, but I really did like this. I feel like the characters, it was more of a character development book than it was a plot driven book. And one of my favorite characters is actually introduced in this book, Tyson. And yeah, I really like this book, and I would consider this a filler more than an actual book in the series. But yeah, and I gave this a 4.5 out of 5. Then I took a break from the series and I read The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. And this book, I have to say, it's a little sad than I normally opt. And it is not fiction, it's non-fiction. And for being not so much dialogue and just diary entries or like letters, it's really good. Normally you would get bored if it's just some descriptions or just descriptive paragraphs and no dialogues, but she does a very good job without the dialogues. And as the diary goes on, you can see her kind of maturing her writing, the way she writes, the way she acts normally. And also the diary, I feel like it's well balanced between the war and what's happening at the secret Analax, so I really like that. And I give this a 4 out of 5, though I don't think I'll ever read this in the immediate future. And we're back to Percy Jackson. I think I read this in October. I read the third installment, Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse. This is a lot of people's favorite book, and it's a close second to me. I really like this, but I feel like it's a little sad. There are a lot of new characters introduced. I feel like the mystery is really well done. And not seeing Annabeth for one book is a new take. I really like that, and having Thalia as one of the main characters is also really good. And the D'Angelo siblings were a whole new twist. I really like this book, and this one is also very plot twisty like every other book of Rick Riordan, and I gave this a 4 out of 5. It doesn't stand out to me that much, but I really did like this. Then I read the fourth book, Percy Jackson and the Battle of the Labyrinth. This is my favorite in the series. I really like this. This was such a mysterious book. Even though I said the last book was mysterious, but this one has so many subplots. It's kind of hard to keep track of it, but I really liked it. We got to see Nico develop in this book, and we saw Tyson again, and that was one of my reasons why I like this book. Grover, Tyson, and Percy, and there were also other new characters in this book, and overall I just really like this book. And even though I had spoilers going into the series, this book had so many new things to show, and I gave this a 5 out of 5. But a little note, I hate this cover. This is my least favorite cover. It reminds me of Cheetos. I just don't like it. It feels like it's edited. I don't know if it's drawn or whatever. It's just not it. And then I read the final book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, Percy Jackson and the Last Olympian. This was very close to being my favorite book, but I have to say that a lot of people died in this book. It's a warning, like it's a very unhealthy amount of people which died in this book. But other than that, it's not a bad book. I really liked it, and the last book ended on kind of a cliffhanger, and it took me so long to get to the part where it was explained, and it wasn't actually explained. It was just boom right into your face, and it wasn't bad. I really liked it, and it wrapped things up pretty well, even though it did open up some new possibilities to the other sequel series, and I really liked that. And it was an amazing series. I really loved it, and this book itself, I really liked it, and I gave this a 4.5 out of 5. And finally, the last book which I read this year was Keeper of the Lost Cities by Shannon Messenger. I was not planning on reading this book. It happened. But I love this book a lot. I can't really rate this book because I have not yet completed the entire series, but it's a solid 4 for me. And one of my favorite things about this series is her writing. Her writing is by far my favorite. It's short, and the world building is really short, and I love that. Yet it's descriptive and long, if that makes sense. And also the friends group in the series, it's so amazing. I loved every single character, and it was so interesting. And the world building, the world, and for a middle grade series, I love this book so much, and I can't wait to read its sequel. And the cover art for this book is so beautiful. It's, I think, done by an artist named Jason Shen, and we have Sophie, and I love that. It's so pretty. I think that 2 different editions, because the original cover, it's a kind of purplish color. This one's red. It happened to a few books in the series, and the original covers, they don't have the foiling. I think the foiling adds a good touch. And also this book, it's kind of damaged. I think it happens to every single book in this series. It's just the way they are. The first couple of pages, they started falling out, but it's not that bad. I taped it, and yeah. And also this book doesn't have like chapter names. It's just chapter numbers. But yeah, I really liked it. These next few books I read during the second wave when I couldn't buy new books. So these ones I already had. I just reread them, including I Am Cleopatra. It's a kind of biography about her, and it gives like a nice argument about her in a good point of view, because as far as I know, some people do overshadow her, mentioning that it's all about her beauty and all. It also has some extra points about Egyptian culture. Then I also read The Secret of the Snow, which is a book from the Thea Stelton series. This one's a special edition, and it's very heavy. These books are a little expensive, and this is actually like one of my first novels I've ever read. It's really pretty though. They have amazing and beautiful illustrations. I think these are by an author called Elisabetta Demi. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. They're Italian. And I also read the kind of sequel, The Cloud Castle. That's the thing about these books, that you don't have a exact sequel. It's more like different adventures, And that's good because you don't have to read every single book. And I'm currently reading Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. It's pretty new to me. It's a young adult standalone novel, and it's pretty good. It does include kind of fantasy in it, and at the time of filming I was about that much way, but the time I was recording I was actually halfway through the book. And that concludes my books. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, smash that like button and also subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos from me. I'm sorry I'm not able to post full length videos, but if you did like this video, please share, and I'll see you next time. Bye.